Hello and welcome to the Heads and Volleys podcast with me, Lee Dunn. Hi everyone, I am back so soon. I know usually there's a couple of weeks between episodes, but I thought it was really important to get this episode out there given the current health situation and the fact that nobody's really on the field. I've been working on some content for the last couple of weeks for challenging our players away from the field, and I have some other episodes that I've put out there with regards to challenging our players and then also talking about IDPs, which I'll cover in here too. But this seems to be the perfect time right now, and I look at what's going on in the world and how nobody's out, nobody's really working with their players, nobody's really able to do what they do as a coach. And so there's so much that we can be doing, both individually and as well as for our players. So I wanted to explore some of that in a little bit more depth today and hopefully give everybody a little bit of hope that yes, there's a health crisis going on right now and we're not out on the field, but it's definitely not the end of the world. And to kind of set it all up, I saw a tweet that said, soccer is what we do, it's not who we are. And so I think that's really important when you consider the fact that we all now have so much time. What are you doing with that time as an individual? You probably have family that are really happy to see you, or maybe you have a long list of things that you are hoping to get into. And I'm going to explore some of that here right now. So let's start with you as an individual. One of the best things that I've done recently was actually to get a library card. And it's not to discredit the fact that we can buy books and we can support authors, and I definitely do that. But I hear about books and recommended books all the time. And so having my library card, I just go online, I reserve that book, I get 2 weeks with it, and then I get to give it back. And anytime I buy a book, I try and pass it on to somebody anyway. But having the library so close and so convenient is so awesome that I now have this reading list that I'm able to just start knocking off. And times like this, where I've got probably at least another 2 or 3 weeks off, it's perfect reading time where I try and do a chapter a day or a chapter every couple of days, and now this is a time really to start hammering out those books. So get onto your reading list. Then I also have a mastermind that I've been working on, and it all came from the license experience that I had, and it was all about challenging who you are in your environment, and not so much challenging the leadership and becoming one of those guys who has been on a course and is now back and is wanting to change the world, but really just helping you to understand what you have influence over, what you don't have influence over, and then what you can do as an individual within those situations. So, for example, you may not be able to have an influence over the fields that you play on, but you may have an influence over what the club does for its curriculum or what it does for its certain age group that you're coaching in. And the idea of the mastermind is just to put you in an environment that's encouraging you and empowering you to explore these options. And what I learned from taking my own environmental challenges is that the original environment I was in was not good enough for me. It didn't work for me. I felt stressed, I felt pressured, I felt uncomfortable, and so I left. Now I find myself in a new environment, and an environment in which I have probably more sway, but I also feel more comfortable, and I don't feel as uncomfortable as I did in my previous. So this mastermind has been put together for you to just meander through your own experience. It's done in the form of a Facebook group. So you head over to LeeDunneSoccer.com, join the mastermind from there. I'll get you access into the group. There are units that you work through within the Facebook group. And the idea of it being within the group is that it's going to help you. It's going to provide content for you. It's going to provide some social support too, because there are other coaches in there exploring their own pathways, and everybody's in different positions. But that's the idea of the mastermind, is that you are able to learn from yourself and from others, and then others will learn from you too. So that's one of the big things I'm going to push here. But then also, if you, as always, I talk about Twitter, but you go to Twitter and join in on there. So many people have so many conversations going on. There are conversations that I've never seen before because people simply have time to put their thoughts into a tweet or put their thoughts out there and engage with people. There are more people more active than ever on Twitter right now. So that's definitely a place for you to go and get involved with. You'll find content, you'll find questions, you'll find conversations, and you'll find plenty of material on there for you to join in with. Then thinking about personal goals too. I don't know if you have any other personal goals, if you have any other hobbies. These are it goes without saying, but these are perfect times for you to just get involved with yourself a little bit more. I'm trying to meditate more. Now, during a typical week, I may get to sit down for 30 seconds and be mindful. But this is a perfect time to really grasp at it and get our hands on what our personal goals are that we often forget because we're so busy giving towards our teams and our environments and our players. I also, if you follow me on Instagram at LeeDunneSoccer, I got a ukulele for Christmas, and so I am trying to play that just for a bit of fun because it's an alternative to planning sessions or to working on podcasts or to making content. And so I'm going to play a little jam for you. And this is as far as I've got over the last couple of days. Answers on a postcard as to what you think the song is. And I'm not going to sing because I haven't taken singing lessons yet. But this is as far as I've got. So it's really fun for me to just try different things and to divert my mind for just a few minutes at a time. I watch a YouTube video, whatever I do, to try and learn some of the chords and just try and play a little bit more. That was I put a lot of pressure on myself there because usually it's my wife who says, oh yeah, that sounds really good, but I haven't really put it out there for anybody yet, so you're the first one. And now I want to move into, what about your players? So I'm going to go through a couple little categories here that I think are important, some things that I do for my players and ideas that I've stolen from other people or that I've seen out there. So one of the first ones is that I have a game model. And it's something that I push. And you'll listen back to the original episodes with Paddy King where we talk about what a game model is and how valuable it can be. Now, I'm a huge proponent of giving the answers to my players and not, pass here, pass there, but having them understand what it is that I want from our game and then for having their buy-in too. So if you head over to my YouTube channel, you'll see that I put the presentation of our In Attack presentation out there that I did in the preseason of the fall season, and now we're into the spring season, if we have a spring season, but I have this spring season same presentation coming, and I'll just use a Zoom go-to meeting and we will go through the presentation as if we were in a classroom together. And I think it's really important because they get to see the content, of course. It's also on their screen, so it's a little more personal for them, and it's not necessary for us to be in the same room. Think about your jobs. Most of you are probably able to telework. We can also telecommunicate in terms of having these presentations digital, and the players will all chirp in with what they think. So that's one of the ways that I'm going to use technology to present to my players when I can't actually physically be with them. So to use that sort of stuff there. And it's simple, it's cheap, it's really easy to connect with the players. All they're going to do is just dial in and away we go. So I also use Google Forms, and I sent a Google form out to my players yesterday, and it had 6 questions on it, and they're not even questions. The first question was, please explain what the following power words mean to you. And so I have these power words or this team language document, and I try and simplify our language as much as possible so that anytime anyone has the ball and I or a player needs to say something, needs to communicate with them, we use certain power words. So for example, one of the power words is underneath. So then I ask for the players in the Google form to explain what underneath means to them. Now, I use that for a couple of reasons. One, to remind them that we have these power words because they're 13 and 14 years old. But then also, I need to know and see exactly what they understand of it. And the really interesting thing for me is that most of them have what I would deem the correct answer or the right situation for the answer, but the depth of understanding. And so I use a word of connect, and it just simply means for our players to provide options or for us to help get away from situations where we're outnumbered or maybe the numbers are even. And some of the players will have highlighted that connect means to provide an option to their teammate. And then another player highlights that connection means to provide a connection for a player to help us exploit opponent weaknesses. So now I look at this player, and this is a player that is often connecting the game anyway, and it just helps me understand what he understands more of the game and how much more I can challenge him, and then how much more I need to work with other players independently too. So the Google Forms are brilliant for that. I use that for all sorts of questions. You can challenge them with all sorts of questions of what this means to you. I saw Kieran Boyle mention that he was asking about the weaknesses or the three things that are going to affect the team, and there's so much psychological stuff out there. You think about guys like Dan Abrahams, who I interviewed, and working on things like a game face. These are all things that you can challenge your players with, that when it comes back to you, it's something that you can hold your players accountable. But if they don't do it, now you're starting to explore the players that may or may not be as committed or may have other issues, or it's just another way for you to follow up and engage with your players. And if you're looking for more tools to challenge your players with, then I have power questions available on my website. So some of those questions that I mentioned earlier about what it may look like for you as an individual when you're playing really well, all these items that are going to help you build a game face, or even just things that I would like to know as a coach. So what do you do as a player outside of practice, for example? Do you play a musical instrument? Can you play the ukulele? Do we have a band in our team and we can play music together? Who knows? You don't know until you ask. And those are all sorts of power questions that you can get on my website. Also available is the IDP template, and I did an entire episode on the value of an IDP. That's the individual development plan for your players. And send them the template. Let them start working through it. You make it as simple or as complex as you like. And on my website, you can download the actual file so you can edit away and make your own, make it relative to yourself, make it relative to your players. Then I had an interview with another guy the other day, and part of the conversation we had was that the players don't understand how to set SMART goals. And so I said, well, you have a couple of choices. You either spend time explaining what a SMART goal is and explaining to them what that may look like, and you may end up shaping their goals a little bit more by giving them examples and then them kind of taking that and running with it, or you just adjust your IDP. So there is value, I think, in a SMART goal. Do I use it? Not particularly, but you can, again, adjust and adapt this IDP document for your players to make it relative to you and relative to your players. So then I also use Canva. And I'm not sure if you've used Canva. Canva is a brilliant tool, and for the most part, you can use it for free. You can find on there ways to create digital content for things like if you have Instagram or stories, you are working on your website, things like that. The content on there is fantastic. But then I also use it for handouts. And so I talk about the team language. I have the team language handout. So if you're interested in seeing that, let me know and I'll share it with you. And it's just a simple little card that I'll be able to send to any player. I'll have it as part of my own content too, but it's something that any player can read and reference. So if they hear the word connect or if they hear the word underneath, they know exactly what that means in terms of our game model. And now to really hit the level of your player, get on their terms, what about using something like TikTok? If you listen to episode 29, I interviewed Eric Arman, and we were talking about the value of technology within our games or within our environments. And TikTok is one of the new ones that I am considering, and I haven't done it yet, but it's definitely on my mind, of creating some sort of skill challenge with my players and then having them all upload to TikTok, and we'll do a race so you can get the most views or the most likes or the most shares, the most comments or anything like that. There's just going to be a little bit of fun for us to do because we are separate, but everybody has a phone, or most people have a phone, at least their parents have a phone, and we all have the ability to have a soccer ball at our feet in a 3x3 little bit of space, or in a bedroom, or in a garage, or wherever you are. So if we just get creative and we get inventive, then there's no reason why we can't still be having some fun, still connecting as a team, still bonding, and then still actually playing the game. So my TikTok challenge is something I'm considering. I'm just not sure on the logistics of it yet. And so when I do, I will certainly let you know more, but it's just so much fun. And I've done the same with YouTube too, where in my office in San Francisco, I'll just take a ball and my GoPro or my phone and just film doing something like an around the world or a little rondo with somebody, and just finding ways, a little game of Pana, and just film that, send that out to my players and say, your turn, fire away, show me what you've got. And again, I'm just getting them on their level, but I'm also showing them that I'm still there, I still care, I'm still involved, and just because we can't play doesn't mean that the season's over for us. So you can also look at other dedicated platforms too. I think it's probably a perfect time more than ever now to invest in something like My Personal Football Coach with Sol. The content that he provides is so valuable for our players because it's all individual skill development. And when we're thinking about not being able to join our players, or even thinking about the episode I just released with Mark Savides in terms of how we work through unopposed and opposed and then technical and 1v1 skill work, this is the perfect time really to really hone in on those technical skills. If you're like me and you don't necessarily favor working isolated, now we have a couple of weeks for our players to actually get involved with the ball on their own and really perfect that little touch. So when your hand is forced, why not embrace it? And guys like Sol with My Personal Football Coach are excellent. So definitely explore that. You'll see him on YouTube. He has so much good content on there. And there's a lot of other guys like that, but I'm definitely giving Sol a shout out here. So you can reach out to him. He's always available on Twitter and stuff too. So that's one of the big things I think is going to make your life easier if you are not savvy, or if whatever your issue is in terms of maybe you can't do an around the world skill, who knows, who cares? But the idea is that there is so much out there that you can do for your players. And I think if you just take an hour and explore what you want the next 2 weeks to look like and what you and your players can really get out of this, then I think that you'll have probably the foundations for a great off season in the future anyway, because now you've got a plan of what your players are going to be doing. But you're really going to maximize these 5 weeks that we have off, or however long this ends up being. So I really hope that this was just a quick kind of whirlwind insight into what I'm working on with my players, and I felt the value in a lot of the material that I offer is so good for you to either look at yourself in terms of exploring your environment a little bit more, or working through things with your players that can take them on a next level, such as IDPs or some fun stuff like TikTok and skill sessions and little 1v1 games that they can play with siblings or with parents. So I really hope you enjoyed this. This was just a quick overview of what's going on, and I would love to know what you're doing. If there's something I missed, or if you would like to tweet me and let me know what you're doing, and we can share that out between our followers. Sharing is caring right now, and you'll get onto Twitter and you'll find a lot of people doing a lot of things. So definitely grab what's going on and don't let your players fall away. Don't let them feel like it's a holiday or that you don't care, because we clearly do. We clearly have some issues that we all want to be on the field, but when we can't be, now it's time to get inventive and fire away and enjoy it. So thanks for listening to Heads and Volleys. I'll have more coming. Plenty of downtime here. Plenty of interviews coming out soon too. So look out for more from Heads and Volleys, and always follow me at LeeDunneSoccer.